Why does an English farmer raise a cow in his field, but an English family eat beef at the table? Same animal, two different words. And the answer is a single autumn afternoon, nearly 1,000 years ago, when England stopped, in a very real sense, being English. We're history recreated, and with AI trained on old chronicles, on embroidery, and on the patient detective work of historians, we're going to stand inside that year with you. Spring 1066. A strange new star hangs in the sky over England, with a long tail of fire, and from London to the smallest village, people look up and feel afraid. They are right to. We call it Halley's Comet. They had no name for it, only a certainty that it meant something enormous was coming. It did. That January, England's king, Edward the Confessor, had passed from this world. He left no son, no clear heir, and a crown with no certain head is the most dangerous thing in medieval Europe. Three powerful men each believe England is theirs, and the man holding the crown, Harold, is no minor lord. His family, the Godwins, had grown so powerful that they arguably overshadowed the throne itself. Within months, all three will move. The first is Harold Godwinson, the most powerful noble in England, Edward's own brother-in-law. He says Edward, in his final hours, named him, and he is crowned King Harold II within days. The second is across the sea, William, Duke of Normandy. He insists Edward promised him the throne years earlier, and that Harold himself once swore a sacred oath to support that claim. William is a hard man, the son of a duke and a tanner's daughter, ruling Normandy since the age of 7. In his own time, some knew him as William the Bastard, for he was born outside marriage. History would soon trade that name for a far grander one. The third is Harald Hardrada, the towering warrior king of Norway. And astonishingly, he is joined by Tostig, Harold's own brother. William does not move on impulse. Through the summer of 1066, he builds an invasion fleet, gathers knights from across France, and wins something powerful: a blessing. He persuades the Pope himself to back his cause, turning a land grab into something that looks like a holy mission. The whole campaign would later be stitched, scene by scene, into a 70-meter embroidery we now call the Bayeux Tapestry, one of the most extraordinary sources any historian could ask for. September brings the storm. Hardrada's Viking fleet strikes the north of England, and at the Battle of Fulford, his men overwhelm a hastily gathered English force. But Harold is fast. He marches his army the length of the country, and on the 25th of September, at Stamford Bridge in Yorkshire, he catches the Norwegians completely by surprise. One old story tells of a single Norse warrior who held the narrow bridge alone, holding back an entire army for as long as he could. It is a stunning victory. Hardrada falls. Tostig falls. The last great Viking invasion of England is over, and Harold has won. And then comes the cruelest timing in English history. Just 3 days after Stamford Bridge, while Harold's men are still bloodied and exhausted in the north, the wind in the Channel finally turns. William's fleet, hundreds of ships, thousands of men and horses, crosses the water and lands on the south coast at Pevensey. Harold has won one war and instantly inherited another at the opposite end of his kingdom. Most kings would wait, rest the men, gather strength. Harold does the opposite. He drives his tired army back south, around 250 miles in under 2 weeks, and takes up a position on a ridge near Hastings. Honestly, I don't know whether that was courage or exhaustion making the decision for him. Perhaps by then, they were the same thing. Quick thought for the comments. If you just won the fight of your life and were told a second invasion had landed behind you, would you march or would you rest? There's no easy answer. The 14th of October, 1066. The two armies meet on a slope the chronicles call Senlac. Harold's men form the Old English shield wall, a dense, locked line of warriors on foot, shields overlapping on the high ground. William has something they do not: archers and ranks of mounted knights. Perhaps 7,000 men stand on each side, and the fighting grinds on from 9 in the morning until the light fails, almost unheard of for a medieval battle, which often ended within an hour. For most of the day, the wall holds. Wave after wave of Norman attacks break against it and roll back. Then the battle nearly turns by accident. A rumour races through the Norman lines that William has fallen, and his men begin to panic. William rips off his helmet, rides along the line bareheaded, and shows them his living face. The panic stops, and from that near disaster, the Normans learn their winning trick. They pretend to flee. The English, sensing victory, break their perfect line to chase them down the hill, and the moment that wall opens, the knights wheel around and pour into the gap. By dusk, it is finished. Harold's two brothers have already fallen, and then Harold himself, the King of England for just 9 months, is taken in the final hour of the fight. Tradition and the famous Bayeux Tapestry show him struck in the eye by an arrow, though historians still argue over exactly how he met his end. What is certain is this: when the sun goes down over Senlac, England no longer has a Saxon king. The road to London lies open. William marches on the capital, and on Christmas Day, 1066, he is crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. But a crown is not the same as a conquered country. For years, the north of England refuses to bend. In the winter of 1069, William answers rebellion with fire. His men burn crops, villages, livestock, and tools across whole counties, a campaign so ruinous that Yorkshire's recorded population drops to roughly a quarter of what it had been. The land takes a century to heal, and then William reshapes England down to its bones. He covers the country in castles, stark stone and timber strongholds rising over every town, built not to defend the English, but to hold them. Land itself now comes with a price. Every estate granted in return for knights and loyalty, the machinery of feudalism locking into place across the whole country. He strips the old Anglo-Saxon nobility of almost everything. By 1086, barely 5% of English land remains in English hands, and of his roughly 180 greatest landholders, just 4 are English. That same year, he orders the Domesday Book, an astonishingly detailed survey of who owns what, right down to the last pig and plough. A record so thorough, nothing like it exists anywhere else in medieval Europe. The English give it a chilling nickname, the Domesday Book, the Book of Judgment, because, like God's final reckoning, there is no appeal against what it records. 2 of the changes still surprise people today. The first, the Normans effectively ended slavery in England. Before 1066, as much as 1/5 of the population may have been enslaved, and within a few generations, that institution quietly disappeared. The second is hiding in your own mouth. Norman French became the language of the powerful, of the court, the law, the feast. The English peasant in the field kept the old Saxon words for the animals he tended: cow, sheep, pig. But the Norman lord at the table used his French words for the meat that arrived on his plate: beef, mutton, pork. 1,000 years later, you still speak that exact divide. I find that genuinely astonishing. Not a date in a book, not a faded battle, but a living fault line running straight through the English language that every single English speaker still carries around with them, every day, without knowing it. On the very slope where Harold fell, William was later ordered to build an abbey in penance, and you can still walk that ground today in a Sussex town now simply called Battle. The Tower of London began as one of William's strongholds. Half the words in an English courtroom are still Norman French. 1066 never really ended, it just changed its clothes. We are history recreated, and we piece these lost worlds back together so you can walk their streets, not just skim their dates. Tell us in the comments, whose side would you have stood on that October day, Saxon or Norman, and why? Bigger, braver, sharper work is already on the way, because the past is never finished with us. It simply waits, patient and quiet, for someone to look back.